Picture yourself lying prone in the freezing backwash of the Pacific Ocean at 3 o'clock in the morning, where the boundary between the land and the sea becomes a blurred, chaotic threshold of survival. The air is not merely cold, it is a predatory physical weight that colonizes your lungs with every shallow, desperate breath. There is a specific pungent olfactory signature to this world. The sharp, industrial scent of diesel exhaust from distant idling boats, the thick, cloying smell of rotting kelp torn from the ocean floor, and the faint, metallic tang of blood from a split lip that you no longer have the neurological bandwidth to feel. Your skin has ceased to be a protective barrier, and has instead become a canvas of agony, where the fine, abrasive grains of Coronado sand have migrated into every seam of your sodden uniform, acting like industrial-grade sandpaper against raw, salt-chafed flesh. The soundscape is dominated by the rhythmic, hydraulic roar of the surf, a sound that in any other context might be considered meditative. But here it is the sound of a relentless hammer striking an anvil of human bone. You hear the involuntary, rhythmic clatter of your own teeth, a percussive sound of bone on bone that vibrates through your skull, echoing the profound shivering of a body that has exhausted its last reserves of glycogen, and is now desperately burning its own essence to maintain a failing core temperature. Most see only the act of a man shivering in the tide or the physical endurance of an elite athlete. But what happens here reveals profound truths about the hidden architecture of the human mind. Beneath the surface of this localized torment, we are observing a sophisticated, high-stakes psychological response to the concept of absolute chaos and the systematic dismantling of the ego. This is not a test of muscle, but a violent interrogation of the soul's willingness to inhabit a body that is screaming for surrender. Before we dive deep into the mind of the operator, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss our next explorations into the human condition and the limits of our psychological potential. In this theater of deliberate misery, the concept of time itself undergoes a radical, terrifying distortion. The world you left behind, the world of climate-controlled rooms, the soft glow of digital interfaces, and the curated comforts of the 21st century, has evaporated into an abstraction that feels as distant as a half-remembered dream. You are no longer a citizen, a son or a person with a history. You are a biological organism, reduced to the singular, binary choice between the comfort of the bell and the honor of the struggle. The Pacific does not care about your resume, your aspirations, or your pain. It is a cold, indifferent force of nature that serves as the ultimate mirror for the human will. We must ask ourselves why a human being would voluntarily enter this crucible, rejecting the path of least resistance that our modern civilization has spent centuries perfecting. The answer lies in the realization that the modern world, for all its technological marvels and digital connectivity, has created a vacuum of meaning, a void that can only be filled by the heavy, undeniable weight of physical and psychological extremity. We live in an era of unprecedented abstraction, where our battles are fought in comment sections, and our dopamine is harvested from glowing rectangles of glass, leading to a profound atrophy of the ancestral spirit. The candidate lying in the surf is seeking a reclamation of the self through the most brutal form of reality available. He is engaging in a ritual of self-transcendence where the body is the sacrificial offering, and the reward is a clarity of purpose that cannot be found in a world of endless trivial choices. This is a matter of the soul's survival in a landscape of comfort that threatens to suffocate our capacity for greatness. To understand why 99% fail, we must look past the physical shivering and examine the moment the mind decides that the pain is no longer worth the prize. We are looking at the point where the narrative of the self breaks under the pressure of the environment, and only the raw, unadorned core of human resilience remains. It is here in the cold and the dark that we find the true definition of the operator, not as a soldier but as a master of the internal void. The failure of the many is not a failure of strength, but a failure of perspective, a surrender to the illusion that the present moment of suffering is an eternal state. The 1% who remain do not have better muscles, they have a more profound relationship with the concept of the now, a psychological fortress that allows them to exist in the fire without being consumed by it. This opening into the mind of the seal is our gateway to understanding the broader human struggle against entropy and the seductive call of the easy path. As the waves continue to crash, and the instructor's whistle pierces the air like a needle of ice, the question remains: what survives when everything you thought you were is washed away by the tide? To understand the operator, we must conduct a clinical archaeology of the human brain, peeling back the layers of social conditioning to reveal the ancient hardened bedrock of the tenacity circuit. Deep within the architecture of the frontal lobe lies a small vital island of gray matter known as the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. In the average person, this region is often a dormant landscape, an atrophied muscle of the soul weakened by the frictionless ease of modern life. But in the mind of the 1% who endure, this cortex is a fortress of hypertrophy. Neuroscience reveals a profound truth. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex does not grow when we do what we love, or when we engage in the soft comforts of self-care. It expands only when we do exactly what we do not want to do. It is the biological seat of the will to live, the physical manifestation of the refusal to yield. When the candidate is ordered back into the freezing surf for the 50th time, his brain is engaging in a high-stakes negotiation between the amygdala, which screams for survival through escape, and this cingulate cortex, which demands survival through dominance. The 99% fail because their neural hierarchy is dominated by the primitive imperative to avoid pain. The operator, however, has rewired his internal circuitry to view pain not as a threat, but as a data point, a necessary tax paid for the privilege of existence. This is the neurobiology of grit. It is a refusal to negotiate with the body. Consider the archetypal moment of the break, a phenomenon that occurs with surgical precision during the final hours of the 5th day of Hell Week. We see a candidate, let us call him the ghost of a man, standing on a pier as the wind whips the salt spray into his eyes. He hasn't slept in over 100 hours. His cognitive functions have fragmented into a kaleidoscope of hallucinations. He sees trees where there are masts and hears voices in the white noise of the wind. His feet are no longer parts of his body but swollen, throbbing appendages of lead. In this moment, the self is no longer a coherent narrative. It is a shattered mirror. He reaches what psychologists call the point of cognitive liquidation. This is the moment where the why must be stronger than the how. For the majority, the why is rooted in external validation, the patch on the arm, the respect of a father, the glory of the image. Under the crushing pressure of sleep deprivation, these external motivations evaporate like mist. They are too light to hold back the tide of agony. But the operator finds a deeper, more visceral foundation. He does not stay for the patch. He stays because the act of staying is the only thing that proves he still exists. He chooses the heavy reality of the cold over the hollow relief of the surrender. This is a triumph of the spirit over the biological machine. This capacity for extreme persistence is not a modern invention but a resurgence of our most primitive evolutionary advantage. We are the descendants of the persistence hunter. 10,000 years ago, our ancestors did not possess the fangs of the lion or the speed of the cheetah. We possessed something far more terrifying, the ability to keep walking. We would track a kudu under the relentless glare of the midday sun, an animal vastly faster than us, and we would simply never stop. We would pursue it for hours, then days, until the animal's heart literally exploded from heat exhaustion and sheer psychological terror. This is the persistence of intent. The Navy SEAL is the modern incarnation of this ancestral ghost, exercising a function that has been largely bred out of the modern populace by the architecture of convenience. We live in a world designed to eliminate the need for persistence. Our food is delivered with a tap on a glass screen. Our social standing is measured in digital metrics that require no physical courage. Our discomforts are medicated away before they can even begin to teach us anything. This digital abstraction has created a profound vulnerability in the human psyche, a fragility of the will. The operator rejects this sanitized vacuum. He understands that the soul is not a static object but a process of constant hardening through friction. He seeks out the most abrasive environments, because he knows that without the resistance of the physical world, the mind becomes a shapeless, drifting thing. In the modern world, we are drowning in choice but starving for meaning. The operator finds his meaning in the elimination of choice. By committing to a path where the only options are to move forward or to die, he achieves a level of psychological clarity that the distracted, hyper-connected citizen can never know. He is reclaiming the primitive dignity of the hunter, the one who knows that life is won at the edge of exhaustion. The archaeology of the mind reveals that we are built for this. We are built to endure the unendurable. The tragedy of the 99% is not that they are weak, but that they have been convinced that their comfort is their greatest good. The operator knows better. He knows that comfort is a slow poison, and that the only true life is found in the weight of the pack, the cold of the water and the absolute unyielding silence of a mind that has decided it will never ever ring the bell. In the absolute silence of a mind that has transcended the initial impulse to quit, something remarkable happens. The birth of the kinetic flow. For the elite operator, the flow state is not the whimsical creative immersion found in the artist's studio. It is a cold razor-edged narrowness of focus necessitated by lethal stakes and the total collapse of the ego. As the candidate moves through the final, most grueling phases of training, the self, that loud, complaining narcissistic narrator that lives in all of us, simply ceases to exist. There is no longer a me who is cold, or a me who is tired. There is only the mission, the movement, and the man to his left. This is the ultimate dance between a challenge that borders on the impossible and a skill set that has been forged in the fires of repetition. In this state, time does not merely fly, it dilates and contracts according to the needs of the moment. A 6-hour swim becomes a singular, rhythmic heartbeat. A complex tactical maneuver unfolds with the crystalline clarity of a slow-motion film. This is the neurochemical inheritance of a species that survived by turning the hunt into a meditation. This state of profound immersion is the absolute antithesis of the modern digital experience. While the average citizen exists in a state of perpetual cognitive fragmentation, bombarded by the frantic, shallow stimuli of notifications and the hollow, infinite scroll of the digital void, the operator inhabits a world of singular, heavy reality. The digital world offers us 1,000 choices that mean nothing. The operator's world offers one choice that means everything. This resolution of the paradox of choice provides a psychological peace that is inaccessible to those who seek comfort. The human brain does not crave the path of least resistance. It craves the path of justified effort. We are biologically wired to derive our deepest satisfaction from the successful navigation of high-friction environments. This is the concept of biological satisfaction, a deep visceral sense of rightness that occurs when the prefrontal cortex and the dopamine systems align to conquer a genuine threat. The operator rejects the easy dopaminergic loops of social media and consumerism because they are neurologically unsatisfying. They are ghosts of accomplishment. He chooses the hard path because it is the only one that yields a tangible, indelible sense of self-worth. To the 99%, the difficulty is a sign that something is wrong. To the operator, the difficulty is the proof that he is in the right place. The lesson we must draw from this specific extreme psychology is that the human spirit is not a fragile thing to be protected, but a weapon to be sharpened. The elite mentality is not reserved for the battlefield. It is a template for any life that refuses to be defined by its limitations. We all have a bell in our lives, a symbol of the easy exit, the warm shower, and the return to a comfortable, mediocre existence. The psychology of the operator tells us that the greatest tragedy is not failing, but choosing to stop before you have discovered the true extent of your own power. It is a reminder that discipline is not a chore, but a form of self-respect that guards the soul against the slow erosion of the easy life. If this analysis made you see the operator mentality and your own capacity for resilience in a different light, leave a like to help us continue this exploration of the human shadow. Comment below on what you most admire, or perhaps what you most fear, in the terrifying clarity of a mind that has surrendered everything but its will. And tell us which psychological profile or hidden architecture of the mind do you want to see us deconstruct next. The waves will continue to crash, and the wind will always be cold, but you have the power to decide who you will be when the tide comes in. This is the axiom of the human condition. We are not what we feel, we are what we do when we no longer want to do it. Stay focused, stay heavy, stay in the water.